I've fallen in love with someone else. Please divorce me. In the midst of our disastrous marriage, my husband Daniel presented me with divorce papers. Daniel, who always criticizes my way of living. Without any resistance, I accepted the divorce papers. Because I know the real reason why he wants a divorce. All right. Here, the divorce papers. I shoved the signed divorce papers back at Daniel, who looked puzzled by my lack of resistance. I won't refuse the divorce. You're going to see hell on earth. After the divorce, I immediately headed to a certain place. My name is Chloe. I am the wife of Daniel, the president of a real estate company. Currently, I am being confronted with divorce papers by Daniel, whom I've been with for over 10 years. The beginning of it all was about 6 months ago. Isn't work settling down? Daniel, who runs a real estate company, was hardly ever at home. It wasn't like this when we first got married, but now that his business is doing well, he's become busier. Being absent from home became the norm under the guise of entertaining clients. On weekends, there was no such thing as family time, and he would go out alone. I spent my days at home, always lonely. We don't have children, and every time he left me at home, I blamed myself, wondering if it was because I couldn't have children. For Daniel, who loves children, marrying me, who can't have them, must have seemed like a mistake. After more than 5 years of marriage, our relationship had faded. Then, one day, I reached my breaking point and decided to ask Daniel if we could spend some family time together. Dinner was over, and Daniel was indulging in his hobbies. I tried talking to him, but he didn't respond. He was either listening to a live broadcast on the radio or completely ignoring me, leading me to sigh. Go, go. That's it. Overtake. Daniel, with his fist clenched, continued to cheer passionately. As if I wasn't there. He didn't even seem to notice me standing in front of him. What kind of marriage is this? Normally, wouldn't you care if someone was standing right in front of you? Is it just me who thinks this way? As I was lost in these sad thoughts, the match seemed to end, and Daniel started grumbling as he roughly threw his earphones on the sofa. What the hell was that jockey doing? Get it together, I'm betting a lot of money here. From the conversation, it seemed he was listening to a horse racing broadcast. Wondering if horse racing was more important to him than a serious conversation with his wife, I tried to speak up. Hey, I need to talk to you. What? Can't you see? I'm not in the mood for pointless conversations right now. What? Something important? Just get to the point. Daniel glared at me irritably, venting his frustration from the loss. Why do I have to bear the brunt of your frustration from losing at horse racing? Before I knew it, my sadness spilled out, and Daniel retorted angrily upon hearing my words. What did you say? I've been waiting for your horse racing to finish because I have something to say. Why do I have to be spoken to like that? What have I done? Perhaps it was the loneliness of not being cared for. When he was home, he would spend his time on his hobbies, not thinking about me at all. As long as he provides money, that's enough for him. It became clear during this fight that he was with me with such a mindset. Stop making a fuss. If you have something to say, wait for a time when I'm in a good mood. You're hardly ever home, and when you are, you're off to entertaining clients or spending time on yourself. What am I to you? I didn't get married to become a housekeeper. My pent-up feelings exploded in that moment. I had never raised my voice like this before, but Daniel's harsh words and attitude made it impossible to hold back. Daniel, when we were dating, was earnest and always treated me like a princess. He always put me first, acted with me in mind, and loved me unconditionally. I thought marrying him would lead to a happy marriage life. That was what I believed when I accepted his proposal. In the beginning, our marriage was enviable to those around us. My husband was the pride of my life, people would say, and I believed our happy days would continue. But that only lasted for the first 2 years. After that, his selfishness and tyranny became apparent, and I was treated no better than a housekeeper. I silently catered to his fickle dietary whims and cleaned like a mother-in-law, with strict inspections as if not a speck of dust was allowed. The ultimate insult was being mocked in front of relatives for not being able to have children. Though the relatives intervened, his harassment didn't stop. When I wasn't there, how often he called me useless. I endured those humiliating days because of the memories of his kindness when we were dating. I was grateful for the love he had given me then, which allowed me to endure any harsh treatment with a smile. But now, what about him? The man before me seems like a stranger compared to who he was. He shouts at people on a whim and seems bothered by my very existence. Why is he still living with me if he finds me so annoying? It would be better if he just left me. As I was haunted by these sad thoughts, Daniel uttered unbelievable words. "You've become such a hassle. When we were dating, you did everything I said and were pretty cute, so I married you. But I never thought you'd turn into such a troublesome, wrinkled old woman. Being with you just irritates me. You're useless, can't even have kids. What kind of wife are you? You're more like a housekeeper now." I was devastated by his words. He doesn't see me as a woman anymore. I had a feeling, but hearing it directly from him shocked me into silence. What were these 10 years all about? I had dedicated myself to supporting him in his career, believing he loved me despite everything. I thought this rough patch would pass. That we could return to the happy days of the past. I believed I was the most important woman to him. But now, he looks at me as if I'm something inferior and bothersome. Is this the reward for supporting him for 10 years? If so, isn't this treatment by God too cruel? My sadness turns to hatred, then to anger. Being with you is exhausting. Seeing me clench my fists in silence, Daniel sighed in annoyance, grabbed his cigarette, and went outside. His wallet and mobile phone were in his pants, indicating he wouldn't return home today. As expected, Daniel didn't come back that day. I stared at the door he left through, utterly stunned. Memories of the past, the fun times, the moments I thought were happy, flashed through my mind like a movie, and I found myself crying out loud now that I was alone. This fight had caused a significant rift between Daniel and me. He seemed fed up with seeing my face, returning only at quiet hours to grab his clothes and leave. Afraid of being hurt by his sharp words again, I couldn't bring myself to talk to him. If he asked for a divorce now, I would have nowhere to go, no place to return to. My parents died in a car accident shortly after I got married. I was like a shell of a person when I lost both of them within a year. Daniel was my support, and I truly believed marrying him was the right choice. To me, Daniel was the only family I had left. I had no acquaintances to turn to. Only relations with my in-laws. But I couldn't bring myself to complain to them about their son. They loved me dearly, but no parent wants to hear complaints about their child. I could even risk being disliked by my in-laws. Back then, I was too scared to act, thinking of myself as a coward. I wondered if I would have to live as a housekeeper by Daniel's side for the rest of my life. Such thoughts made my pillow wet night after night. Then, after some time, Daniel came home in a surprisingly good mood. Despite not speaking for over 3 months, he returned during the hours I was awake and brought a shortcake as a gift. "Chloe, here." "What?" The sudden change in his demeanor left me casting a frightened look his way. Seeing my gaze, Daniel laughed awkwardly and tilted his head, extending the box of pastries towards me. "I've been wrong. I regret being cold to you that day. I want to spend happy days with you again. Can we make up? Tears broke through as I looked at Daniel apologizing. The gentle Daniel I knew seemed to have returned. I remember hugging him, harboring a faint hope. Daniel, true to his word, started treating me with care. He was kind, like when we were lovers, and made an effort to come straight home. Despite his busy schedule, he prioritized our time together, increasing the moments we spent as a couple. Actually, at that time, the company's performance was declining. I was in despair. That's probably why I took it out on you. I'm really sorry for making you feel terrible. During a lazy afternoon, watching a movie side by side on the couch, Daniel stroked my hair and shared his feelings from that time. No, I should apologize for blaming you without knowing the situation. Finally, the air between us cleared. I thought we could look forward to happy days as a couple again. That was until a call came to his mobile phone. One evening during dinner, a woman's name appeared on Daniel's phone, causing him to hurriedly answer. Seemingly not wanting the conversation to be heard, he stepped outside to talk. Could it be an important business contact? Though I thought so, it was the first time I felt uneasy. Since making up, Daniel had taken all his calls in front of me. The only exception was during our tumultuous rough patch. Back then, too, he persistently avoided taking calls in my presence. A bad feeling crept over me. Upon his return, I decided to probe. Unusual for you to take a call outside. Someone from work? Oh, yeah. I told you about stepping down as president soon and starting a new venture, right? It was a consultation from an employee about that. Daniel had plans to hand over the real estate company to a trusted subordinate soon, stepping into the role of chairman and managing another company. Starting from scratch with a new company, everyone seems anxious without me. That's why I frequently get calls for consultation. It's a big deal for the company when the president changes. Daniel was more talkative than usual. His usual calm demeanor was replaced by an attempt to cover something up, which was immediately noticeable. Flashed in my mind. The word affair. Daniel was having an affair behind my back. The moment I thought so, my love for him instantly cooled. It's tough. Take care not to overdo it. I decided to casually address Daniel's response while thoroughly investigating his infidelity. Thanks to managing our monthly finances well, we had over $30,000 in savings. I navigated the unfamiliar internet to find a lawyer experienced in infidelity cases and hired them promptly. I also hired a detective to track his movements, and as suspected, he was having an affair with a 27-year-old woman from his workplace. Here are the documents summarizing their relationship. Reviewing the documents provided by the detective, I was shocked. Daniel had been in a relationship with this woman for over 5 years, with breaks in between. They had gotten back together around the time of that dinner call. So that time. Our rough patch was because of Daniel's good relationship with this woman. Daniel started talking about making up because he was dumped by her and was seeking comfort. I was merely a convenient presence for him. Realizing this, I decided to meet someone. Using the weekend Daniel said he was on a business trip, I headed to a certain place. I resolved to take revenge on him. Sometime after discovering his affair, Daniel's new company was established. He successfully transitioned from president, and we found ourselves surrounded by a lavish dinner at home. Congratulations on your hard work, Mr. President. It's going to be even tougher managing 2 companies, but good luck. Since then, Daniel and my relationship had reverted to the hellish atmosphere of our rough patch. Daniel's relationship with his affair partner was thriving. The detective's investigation revealed that Daniel's affair partner was possessive and jealous, leading him to neglect me as a woman to avoid being dumped by her. To ensure such an atmosphere wouldn't arise, he deliberately used cold words and attitudes to keep me at bay. He treated me as if I were just a punching bag when irritated. Apparently, that's how I was treated. All of this came to light because Daniel's affair partner, taking advantage of my absence on social media, revealed everything on her own accounts. The detective stumbled upon this, making Daniel and his affair partner's thoughts transparent. With that, I had all I needed. Next is. As I was thinking this, Daniel, with a cold gaze, sighed heavily and handed me a piece of paper. I don't want to eat your cooking. Spending money on such nonsense, who do you think is keeping you alive? I wasn't giving you money every month just for you to waste it like this. Daniel glared at me as he yelled. I was unfazed by his gaze. Looking down at the paper he handed me, the words divorce application jumped out at me. I've found someone else. Please divorce me. Daniel, unashamedly as if it were the most natural thing, declared he wanted a divorce. He must have thought, given the last 6 months of mental breakdown, I would readily accept. Though his thoughts were transparent, I chose to say nothing. All right. Here, the divorce application. I quickly signed it and, with the brightest smile, thrust it back at Daniel. He was dumbfounded. Why so easily? He seemed to want to ask, but before he could, I began packing at a speed that didn't allow for questions. But I had known Daniel would present the divorce papers today after seeing the affair partner's social media. All I needed to prepare was a bag with my essentials. I'll handle the moving company myself, so let's proceed with everything else through the lawyers. Goodbye. Ignoring Daniel's attempt to call me back, I quickly left the house. Despite the hellish life, there were indeed happy memories. I was severing ties with Daniel and his home, heading somewhere else. The next day, I called the company where Daniel's affair partner worked. She was a new employee at the headquarters where Daniel was stationed, having started a relationship with him after a one-night mistake at a company drinking party. She was now 5 months pregnant. The child was likely Daniel's. Intending to confront them with this shocking truth, I summoned them. Please come to the chairman's house tonight. We have something to discuss. The time is. I called out the affair partner's name over the phone, telling her just that without further discussion. Then hung up, waiting for nightfall. When the appointed time arrived, the two showed up at Daniel's house. Daniel, having apparently made numerous calls to his parents, entered in a rage. Come on, Mom. What's going on? Why aren't you answering the phone? What's this? Upon entering the living room, Daniel, with a sense of entitlement, angrily addressed my mother-in-law, Evelyn. However, as soon as they entered, the sight that greeted them left Daniel and his affair partner unsettled. Can't you see? I thought we'd have a pleasant dinner party, so I invited your relatives. The representatives of the relatives were there, sipping coffee, waiting for their return. Daniel, it's been a while, hasn't it? We heard you had something to discuss with us. Who's this lady? Looks like she's pregnant. Haven't you prepared a seat for her? The relatives, unaware of the situation. Only the in-laws remained unreactive, watching Daniel and his companion with a gentle smile. Daniel, we understand you have something to tell us about this lady, right? Evelyn initiated the conversation. Her tone was gentle and refined, yet her eyes did not smile. Instead, they were wrapped in a frighteningly dark aura, making Daniel's spine chill. What are you talking about? There's no need to play dumb. We've heard everything from Chloe. Joseph, my father-in-law, delivered the final blow to a staggering Daniel. Joseph's gaze turned stern, a stark contrast to Evelyn. The moment Daniel heard what Joseph said, he glared at me in panic and spat out harsh words. "What have you done? You're no longer my wife or anything to me, so don't meddle in family matters." "Not your wife? What do you mean by that?" Daniel's slip of the tongue made all the relatives stare at him in confusion, voicing their questions. To dig his own grave like that, what a foolish man. To think I fell for such a person makes me sick. As I was internally rolling my eyes at the absurdity, Evelyn expressed her anger. "How could my son neglect such a good wife and engage in womanizing? It's a disgrace to our family. Realize your foolishness." Evelyn's firm stance left everyone overwhelmed. Her words must have been terrifying for Daniel. Overwhelmed by the tense atmosphere, he stumbled backward and ended up sitting on the floor. "Thought you got away with a divorce easily? It's time you stop underestimating me. I've explained everything to Joseph and Evelyn and got their permission to demand compensation from you. They said they want to maintain a good relationship with me and are going to kick you out." Approaching Daniel, who was appealing to his in-laws from the floor, I leaned in and whispered the situation to him, ensuring only he could hear. That day, I took a gamble and confided in the in-laws, shedding tears as I explained everything. Once I showed all the evidence to the in-laws, Joseph apologized, and Evelyn encouraged me to rely on them. "I never thought my son would do something so shameful. Thank you for telling us, Chloe. You must have been through so much." Their kindness made me feel warmth from others for the first time in a long while. They were happy to cooperate with my plan. To inform all the relatives who celebrated our marriage about the situation and ensure Daniel had no allies, the in-laws gathered everyone. "Don't ever come back to this house. I don't want to see your face again." Pathetic. Evelyn repeated how pathetic it was. For loving in-laws, infidelity was unacceptable, especially when their son was involved. I almost forgot." Turning to the affair partner, who was watching in shock, she looked at me fearfully. I smiled gently at her to reassure her, then handed her a medical report, revealing a shocking truth. "That child isn't Daniel's. We already know." My bombshell left the affair partner in disarray, and Daniel turned to us, confused. "Daniel and I couldn't have children, and just before we decided to divorce, we went for fertility tests. The results showed I had no issues as a woman. The problem was with Daniel, he was infertile. That's why we couldn't have children." The diagnostic report was evidence that my statement was no lie. "How did you manage to conceive Daniel's child if he's infertile? I'd love to know that method. Could you enlighten me as a piece of knowledge?" Taunting them in such a jesting tone drained the color from the affair partner's face. Daniel, furious, began to interrogate her, but Joseph and the other men restrained him. This way, I succeeded in causing a rift between Daniel and his affair partner, leading to their breakup. The affair partner ended up raising the child alone, and Daniel came crawling back to me, begging for reconciliation, which I, of course, dismissed. I demanded compensation for the affair through my lawyer and received a substantial amount. Presented with the evidence, Daniel was too disheartened to resist and complied obediently with the lawyer's demands. Thanks to the in-laws, I'm now working as an office assistant at a company run by Joseph. If there's anything we can do to help, just let us know. It's not to atone for our son's sins or anything. We truly think of you as our daughter, Chloe." Evelyn expressed her gratitude for my courage in seeking their help. "Despite the hard life you've been leading, you've always been so kind to us. We've always looked forward to your letters and gifts, wondering when you'd come visit us." Evelyn cherished my letters and pressed flowers, storing them carefully in a treasure box. "If you're okay with it, feel free to rely on us as much as you want from now on. Don't hesitate, consider this your second home." Daniel, disowned, was truly forbidden from even entering the house, and after a month, he ceased his attempts to force his way in. Now that things have settled, I live with the in-laws. Evelyn, worried about me living alone, reached out. Why don't you become our adopted child? They loved me enough to offer such kindness, and now I live happily with the in-laws as their true daughter.